What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. And today, we are taking a look up north. So we are taking a look at the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the Maple Leafs have had an interesting start to their season, to say the least. Welcome to Leafland. This is how this works. The expectations are high, and the team is not able to deliver. That is a typical Toronto Maple Leafs season, and we're seeing it once again this year. So this is the first interesting thing from Sportsnet. They said all of Toronto's losses this season have come against non-playoff teams last season. And again, it's early in the season, and you could say what you will about it, but that is a little bit concerning. And you look at, during the beginning of the season, they lost their first game of the year in Montreal 4-3. You knew that was going to be a big game for the Habs. Over 21,000 in attendance at Bell Center. That's a tough game to play. Fair. But then they go home, and things look a little bit better coming out of that 4-game homestand. They beat Washington, Ottawa, and Dallas. But they did lose to the Arizona Coyotes at home 4-2, and there was some booing there. I think there was a little bit of frustration in the fact that they could not win a game against the Coyotes, right? A team that doesn't even have an NHL arena. Leaf fans in particular were saying there are some, the Mississauga Steelheads arena in the OHL is bigger than where the Coyotes play this year and stuff like that. And, maybe they get a little bit of it back at them. So, but things looked better, right? They, all of a sudden, their record looks a little better. They go 3-1 in that stretch at home. And then they go on the oh-so-famous West Coast road trip. So they started off pretty solid in Winnipeg, a 4-1 victory against a team that a lot of people think is pretty good still, the Jets. And then the utter collapse. They go to Vegas, lose that game 3-1 in Vegas. They lose 4-3 in an overtime loss against the Sharks, and a disgusting defeat, a Carlson goal that it was a back and forth, punch this way, punch that way with no defense, and that's what happened. The Leafs had their chance to win that game. The Los Angeles Kings, they lose that one 4-2 after starting that game with the lead, mind you. They had a 1-0 lead in that one, couldn't kind of finish it off. And then the atrocity of the Ducks game. They had the lead, they blew it, then the Ducks had a goal, it got overturned, it ends up going to overtime. Marner could have got the game winner in overtime after being benched for 6 minutes, and the Ducks win the game in overtime again. And a game that the Ducks the Leafs easily should have got 2 points going into Anaheim, a team that's struggling there in Orange County, California. They should have gone in there, taken care of business, taken care of their Leaf fans for the one trip they go down there to Southern California. Should have taken care of business, and they couldn't do it. And they lose that game, and they're lucky to even get a point. Now you look at the rest of their schedule. They play the Flyers and the Bruins this week. 2 teams that are going to be tough outs. The Bruins are arguably the best team in the National Hockey League. The Flyers are always just a pesky team to play against, especially with the way the Leafs play. They play Carolina on the road, and that is their only game. That is one of 2 games on the road for the Leafs until Thanksgiving. They play a dozen games from now till Thanksgiving. They have 2 games on the road. You have to take advantage of that. So here's the positive. Now that I've talked about all the negative, here's the positive for the Leafs. 1, they're done with the West Coast. They don't have to go back to that stretch because you only play 1 game on that West Coast road trip, right? They played Vegas, they played San Jose, they played LA, they played Anaheim. They're done with those teams. That's the positive. They don't have to go back there. Sorry to the Leaf fans that couldn't catch a win there. But that is, I think, a positive for the Leafs at this point. Here's the other positive. Like I said, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of their next 10 games going into Thanksgiving are at Scotiabank Arena, at home. That is a huge advantage here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And those 2 road tests are difficult, but they're also on the East Coast, and considering for Toronto, not terribly tough road trips. It's 2 games. 1 game in Carolina on November 6th, which is coming up this week, and then they don't go back for another road game till November 15th at PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh. And that's it. That is it until after Thanksgiving, where they play New Jersey, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and Detroit that week of Thanksgiving. So until then, this is a huge stretch for the Leafs. This is where you could put away some of that adversity. This is a huge opportunity for them. Again, it's going to be teams that they might struggle against. Philadelphia and Boston. Carolina looks good. Vegas, they already lost to Vegas. They play Vancouver, who is just a corpse at this point. They have to win that one. The Islanders look pretty good. Buffalo looks pretty good. New Jersey, after almost seeing Lindy Ruff fired, they have now fired off a couple of wins in their own right. Pittsburgh's going to be a tough game. They play Pittsburgh twice in this next month. So, even though they're at home, there are games that could be losable. But if you're the Leafs and the expectation is to potentially win a Stanley Cup this year, you have to win these games. And I don't want to be unrealistic and say they have to win 8 of their next 10 games. I'm not saying you have to do that. But you don't want to be in a spot where you lose November and it affects the rest of your season, especially in this division that is super ultra competitive. And when you play teams in your division like Boston, like Buffalo, you have to find a way to scrounge points. You don't have to win all those games. You just have to get at least an overtime or a shootout point. You have to find ways to get points. And that's another positive in this stretch. In San Jose and Anaheim, where maybe they should have gotten 2 points. At least they didn't come out empty, and they were able to get 2 points out of potentially 4. So in that sense, there's another positive, right? Now, like I said, this is a stretch where the Leafs need to get out of their own head. I think Marner's taken a lot of heat, and the Matthews talk about his contract, potentially they could re-up him as soon as July 1st of 2023. That is going to be talked about all year. That is the market of Toronto. That is how this works. This is nothing new. And I just think as an Islander fan who doesn't like the Leafs, of course I enjoy seeing the Leafs struggle a little bit. And I like seeing Tavares uncomfortable. But, it's one of those things where it's it's just annoying. It's annoying hearing the same story year after year after year. And I get the frustration from the Leaf fans. I get why they're frustrated. I get why there is that sense of we just cannot get it done here. This is from Elliot Friedman. He said he thinks that Austin Matthews will re-sign in Toronto in 2024, but not long term. And you kind of wonder in this recent stretch how that's going to change things, if it will at all. Elliot Friedman also said that the Maple Leafs will have to constantly monitor Austin Matthews and see how he's feeling. And then he also mentioned on the Marner front, he said it's clear that Mitch Marner and Sheldon Keefe are off kilter right now. And I think that's pretty evident. I think, fans and the media in Toronto want to see guys held more accountable. There's been that sense that is 6 minutes of him sitting on the bench really going to do all that much? It's not really setting that standard and that accountability that they kind of want established there in Toronto. And I think there is something to be said for that, So when I look at the Leafs situation, is it dire? Absolutely not. And people are talking about firing Keefe. I mean, they're 4-4-2 with 10 points. We've seen teams come back from even worse situations. But I would say, and you hate to do this around the holidays and Thanksgiving, but this is the world of hockey. I know there's about 6 million GMs, as a shout out there to Jeff Marek, what he said in the recent 32 Thoughts podcast. There's 6 million GMs in Toronto, and I'll be the 6 million and first to tell you my thoughts on the Leafs. My opinion is, you see what happens these next 10 games on this 8 of 10 at home. You see what happens here. If they go 500 in this stretch, I'm probably making a move. I'd almost do what Vancouver did in the sense of you make maybe 2 trades, 2 roster trades, and just so you kind of quiet the noise. And you hate to make a trade, but this is where Dubas has to be doing his work now, where he's talking to GMs and kind of deciding, all right, well, if we're 5-5 and this happens, we do this. And you have to have that almost like a head coach in college football or in football in general, where it's 4th and 3. So I already planned this 6 weeks ago, what we're going to do in this spot. So we're going to do this. And I think that's kind of what we need to see here from Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas. Is Dubas almost has to have a 4th and 3 playbook 3 weeks ahead of time and already know what he's going to do 3 weeks from now. If this and this happens, then we do this. If this and that happens, then we do that. And I think that's kind of what you have to look at. So maybe that's a depth trade. Maybe that's a goalie. Like just something to shut down the noise. And it's not really a just to make a move because he's already got that set up at this point for 3 weeks from now. So it seems like a move that was an in the moment move, but it was actually a pre-noticed move that he was kind of massaging over the past couple weeks and then got the deal done when he saw what happens after these 10 games. And I hate to be the person to say make a trade to make a trade, but in a market like Toronto, you don't get the flexibility of just waiting things out. And I don't think it's time to fire Sheldon Keefe because, in all honesty, who's out there that's going to be better than Keefe? Honestly, unless you're bringing back Mike Babcock, which would be kind of interesting. He's on the final year of his buyout from the Leafs. We know that's not happening. Who else is out there? Is Barry Trotz ready to go and come in right now? I don't think this is a job he wants necessarily. I think there's been a lot of talk about Barry Trotz there. I think he wants an original six team, which he's mentioned, but I just don't see him wanting to go to Canada. I just really don't. And maybe he does. Maybe that's a notion that's out there. He's from Winnipeg. He's from Canada. So maybe there is that conceived notion. I just think he wants to find a spot where he could be massaged into a general manager. And I don't know if Toronto is necessarily that retirement plan that I think I'd want if I was Barry Trotz. So that's my thoughts on things. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the Leafs here? Should they make a move? Should they wait things out another 2 or 3 weeks till Thanksgiving and kind of see where they stand? Let me know your guys' thoughts. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, make sure to give this video a big subscribe and a big thumbs up because it definitely helps us out. The channel's been a little bit slow recently, so if my Leaf fans out there, I know there's a big portion of Leafs Mafia out there watching this video, guys. Make sure to do that to help us out. Thank you as always, and I will see you again next time.